When it comes to animation, Disney has fallen far from their roots and has even sabotaged and devalued their original catalog of classic animated films by treating traditional 2D animation as an inferior, outdated practice rather than a different stylistic choice. The last traditionally animated film from the studio was in 2011 with Winnie the Pooh. That was well over a decade ago, and every animated film they've released since has gone for the same exact style of 3D CGI animation, where environments and textures are almost photorealistic, and the cartoony proportions of the characters are mostly what distinguishes this type of animation from live action. Now, this style of animation can certainly be lovely to look at. I would have no problem with it if it weren't the only option for theatrically released contemporary animated movies. That's the only type of animated film Disney and most studios will even make these days, which has brainwashed the public into thinking that anything that isn't CG animated with extreme detail is old, cheap, doesn't have as much value, can't be taken seriously, etc., etc. It's done so much harm to the medium of animation because one particular look has become the standard, and there isn't even much room for interesting stylistic and aesthetically unique choices within CG animation. They all look the same. And for Disney to treat traditional 2D animation as something not worthy of being produced anymore, they're diminishing the value and relevance of their entire works of classic animated films, which is stupid on their part. It doesn't benefit them in the long run because the entire company thrives off of their iconic, familiar, recognizable characters, most of which were established in traditional 2D animation. So, as characters like Cinderella and Mickey Mouse become less relevant in favor of characters like Elsa and Moana, then so much of the iconography that is ingrained into the company, iconography that the company was built on and continues to rely on, holds much less weight. It's actually quite sad. And yes, there are the rare modern animated movies like Into the Spider-Verse that blend CG animation with traditional animation, and that particular film does so in a stylistically interesting, unique way. Most studios, particularly Disney, don't really like to play around with the animation styles and don't tend to make unconventional artistic choices. But with the acclaim of Into the Spider-Verse, the upcoming Spider-Verse sequel, and more visually interesting animated movies like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, we may be headed in a better direction. And actually, even the upcoming Disney movie Wish is blending CG animation with traditional 2D animation, so that's definitely promising, but they're still very much reliant on the modern 3D look of contemporary animation, so the 2D element barely even registers, and I'm seeing a lot of people criticizing the animation of Wish, saying it looks like something you'd see on Disney Junior and not a theatrically released feature film. And I'm wondering if that criticism is coming from the fact that audiences are not used to seeing any trace of traditional animation from Disney on the big screen, and the 2D style has become so devalued that people see it as cheap? Or is it coming from the art direction of the film straying so closely to the generic look and design of most Disney CG animated movies that the slight differences are just jarring? I don't know, but it's better than nothing. If I had it my way, I would greenlight a traditionally animated movie in the style of 1959's Sleeping Beauty, because I think that is still the most gorgeously animated Disney film of all time, and no amount of CG or photorealistic details and textures within contemporary animated movies could diminish that. Despite being traditionally animated and made all the way back in the 50s, the artistic direction is impeccable, the visuals are cinematic and timeless, the atmosphere is so palpable and dreamy and luscious, and I think it'd be extremely refreshing for Disney to do a similar stylistic approach in a modern film, And though I encourage Disney to continue telling original stories, I think they should also stick to their brand a bit, stay true to what the company was built on by creating the definitive versions of well-known stories and fairy tales. I'm very disappointed that the Jack and the Beanstalk adaptation, titled Gigantic, was cancelled, because even though Frozen is very, very loosely based on the story of the Snow Queen, Disney has really been lacking when it comes to fully establishing their versions of classic stories, which used to be the whole company's thing. That used to be what they were known for. I would love to see a traditionally animated version of something like Hansel and Gretel, but I particularly would love a Swan Lake adaptation in the style of Sleeping Beauty. That would just be gorgeous. But yeah, Disney is making some very poor choices currently, and even though they're making lots of money, they are definitely doing damage in other areas. I am hopeful that there'll be another Disney renaissance in the future, and I mean a renaissance of integrity. And hopefully that comes sooner than later, and I think it will be sooner because people are really starting to get Disney fatigue and sick of their bad choices. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments. Would you love to see traditional animation come back, or do you want to only spend money on CG animation when watching on the big screen? Yeah, okay. Let me know. Bye-bye.